30 seconds. That's how long the ground shook before Haiti's capital lay in ruins. Somewhere between 100,000 and 316,000 people died. Nobody agrees on the number. This is the deadliest natural disaster to strike a single country in the 21st century, and a fault line that waited 250 years to break. Haiti sits on Hispaniola, an island the Earth has torn at for centuries. Colonial records describe a French historian who watched Port-au-Prince collapse not once, but twice, in 1751 and again in 1770. A magnitude 8 quake struck nearby in 1946, sending a tsunami that killed nearly 2,000 people. The warnings were written down. Nobody built for them. By 2010, Haiti was the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, already battered by hurricanes and tropical storms. It had no building codes. Homes rose wherever people could fit them, often stacked on slopes without steel supports or real foundations. Nearly 2 million people lived as squatters on land never surveyed for safety. The city had nothing to absorb the shock. The quake began 13 kilometers underground, southwest of the capital, on blind faults tied to the Enriquillo Plantain Garden fault system. The Caribbean plate creeps past the North American plate at about 20 millimeters a year, roughly the speed a fingernail grows. This fault had been locked, gathering stress, for 250 years. Scientists had been sounding alarms for years. A 2007 study warned the fault could unleash a quake as powerful as magnitude 7.2. A geologist quoted in a Haitian newspaper in 2008 said flatly that Port-au-Prince faced a high risk of major seismic activity. The warnings never turned into stronger buildings or evacuation plans. Then, at 7 minutes to 5 in the afternoon, on January 12, 2010, it happened. A magnitude 7 earthquake tore through the Enriquillo fault zone, centered near the town of Léogâne, just 25 kilometers from Port-au-Prince. The shaking lasted less than 30 seconds. That was enough time to bring down a country's capital. The tremors reached intensity levels strong enough to heavily damage even earthquake-resistant buildings. And Port-au-Prince had almost none of those. Roughly 3.5 million people lived inside the zone of worst shaking. Concrete buildings pancaked floor onto floor. Within seconds, the skyline of Haiti's capital had changed forever. The National Palace, symbol of Haiti's government, folded in on itself. President René Préval and his wife escaped, but the National Assembly, the Supreme Court, and the Palace of Justice were all wrecked alongside it. The Port-au-Prince Cathedral collapsed too, killing the city's archbishop. The government meant to lead the recovery no longer had a building to work from. Half the nation's schools were damaged or destroyed, along with all 3 major universities in the capital. More than 1,300 schools and 50 health facilities were gone. Hospitals that survived were instantly overwhelmed. One of only 3 Médecins Sans Frontières facilities in the city collapsed completely as the injured arrived by the thousands. Even the walls meant to hold people in gave way. The prison civil de Port-au-Prince crumbled, and roughly 4,000 inmates simply walked out into a city that no longer had a functioning police force to stop them. Law and order, like everything else, had collapsed along with the buildings. Phone networks failed. Cell towers went dark. Fiber optic lines snapped. Radio Lumière, the station that reached 90% of the country, went silent within minutes. For the outside world, and for Haitians searching for missing relatives, the earthquake had switched off the nation's voice at the exact moment it was needed most. Port-au-Prince's morgues filled within hours. By the second day, 1,000 bodies lined the streets and sidewalks. Government trucks collected thousands more, burying them in mass trenches dug outside the city. One rescue worker compared the scene to accounts of the Holocaust. So many bodies, he said, that the number could no longer be grasped. The dead included musicians, athletes, 30 members of the National Football Federation, and dozens of United Nations peacekeepers. The UN's own mission headquarters collapsed, killing its chief, Hedi Anabi, his deputy, and the police commissioner. Even the people sent to keep Haiti stable were buried in the same rubble as everyone else. Here is the number nobody agrees on. Haiti's government put the toll as high as 316,000. A university study put it near 160,000. A leaked US-funded survey using door-to-door counting found somewhere between 46,000 and 85,000, a fraction of the official figure. One expert put it simply, round numbers are a sign that nobody actually knows. Within hours, appeals for help went out around the world. The Dominican Republic, sharing the same island, was first to respond, sending water, food, and heavy machinery across the border. Iceland's search team landed within 24 hours. Nations from Qatar to South Korea to China dispatched rescuers, field hospitals, and cargo planes loaded with supplies. But the country had almost no way to receive it. Port-au-Prince's airport normally handled 20 flights a day. Suddenly, it faced hundreds, landing every 2 minutes with no room to unload. The seaport was unusable, its crane sunk at an angle, roads were choked with rubble. Getting aid off the tarmac was its own battle. Rescue teams worked with search dogs and bare hands, listening for tapping beneath collapsed concrete. Over one weekend, nearly 2,000 rescuers from 43 countries pulled 12 more survivors from the wreckage, pushing the total number of confirmed rescues past 100. Everyone felt like a small miracle in a city that had run out of them. Much of this work was never filmed by international cameras. Ordinary Haitians dug out their own neighbors long before foreign teams arrived. Along the coast, a separate horror unfolded. An underwater landslide triggered a local tsunami that slammed into the fishing town of Petit Paradis, sweeping at least 3 people out to sea. As days passed with food and water still trapped at the airport, patience frayed. Looting broke out in places, and some neighborhoods armed themselves against it. Aid workers were bluntly frustrated. Doctors ran short of morphine, while planes carrying supplies were turned away. Yet alongside the chaos, residents were also seen marching peacefully through the streets, singing. The response became historic in its own right. A televised telethon called Hope for Haiti Now raised $58 million in a single day. The United Nations paid hundreds of Haitians to clear roads and turn debris into fuel, a cash for work program meant to rebuild livelihoods alongside buildings. Offshore, the hospital ship USNS Comfort began treating the wounded, and helicopters ferried patients from collapsed city blocks straight to its operating rooms. On land, aid groups distributed over 700,000 tarpaulins and 100,000 tents, racing to shelter people before the next storm season arrived. Years later, the scars remained visible. The Cathedral of Our Lady of the Assumption, one of the city's landmarks, still stood in ruins a decade after the quake. A stone reminder that reconstruction in Haiti has always moved slower than the disasters that make it necessary. Haiti's earthquake lasted less than 30 seconds. Its aftermath has lasted years. In death tolls still disputed, in a cathedral still unrepaired, in a fault line still building stress for whatever comes next. The same tectonic boundary runs through Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, quietly gathering pressure beneath islands that have felt this before.